Hi everyone, it's Kerri here, and today I'm going to run you through my charcoal process. So I'm trying to do a Facebook Live every week. Bear with me though, it may not be every week, it may be fortnightly, but I'll definitely aim to do every week. I've just got this, so I'm on my phone and I'll flip it around to my drawing board. But I thought I was going to do this one last week, and it was going to sort of fall into place with over on my free Facebook group, Drawing Wildlife and Nature Beginners to Advanced. Where every month we do an Aesop Fable sentence challenge, and it was about a lark and her nest of eggs. So I'm going to do some eggs in charcoal. So I'm a week late, but that's sort of where the idea came from. And I thought it'd be really good to show everyone sort of how I do my charcoal process. It's very step by step. I do it with everything I do in charcoal. So if you saw my lions series I did for the exhibition up here in Maryborough, same process. And I thought, well, I'd do the eggs as well. All right, it's really hard to see comments on my phone, but I've got my computer here. Let me, just bear with me. Okay, Marianne's here. Karen's watching from work, so keep the sound down. I wonder if I can put, I don't know if you can put closed captions, whether you can do that from your end or my end, but anyway. All right. Yeah, so I've got my messy wall behind me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will flip this around. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments and I'll come back to those at the end, sort of thing, because like I said, it's a bit hard to see. So on this phone, let me just flip this. There we go. All right. We'll just have to bring it out a bit. Oh, just bear with me while I get this centered. Okay. So as you can see, I think that's in the center. We might have to just come down a little bit. All right. Okay, so these are the eggs. I found a reference image, but the Aesop Fable sentence had 5 eggs, so I was going to add a couple more eggs in here. Now, I wanted to just go through, I know this is pretty basic, the eggs, like you would just freehand these, I would normally do. But what I wanted to do is just show you quickly how I do, if I'm doing a larger scale drawing, especially in charcoal, how I scale it up. So like I said, those lines I did, this is the same process I did there. Also, if you know my lemur painting, anything, my cow, anything big, I usually do this way rather than use a tracing. So a tracing I use for anything small because it's quick, but I use a scale tool, which is one of these little fellas, for anything that I want big. Okay, so like I said, with this I probably would normally just freehand these eggs, but I just wanted to quickly show you what I mean. So for an animal that you need a lot more detail for the sketch, I would be using this. So what I do is I get my reference image, print it out, and then I run a center line through the middle, so vertically, and then I run a center line horizontally. Okay, so I've just measured the center of my reference and run that line. Because my picture's dark, I've just run it in a white pencil and then down through here, through the center. Okay, so they're my, that's it. That's all I need. I don't need a grid or anything like that. I just need center lines. And then I don't know if you can see it on the paper because I've had to do it really light because it's in graphite, and graphite is not great for things to stick to. So I've just done it really lightly, but again, I've measured the center of my paper and drawn straight down the center that way and straight down the center that way. Okay, so I've got matching lines, so I know the center here and the center here. Okay, so with my scale tool, I usually have to muck around. At the moment, I've got that little center thing, that little green thing. I don't know what it's called. In the center, I don't have the scale changed that much. Depending on how big you want the scale to change is how you move this thing. So the closer this way, it becomes a bigger scale difference. Whereas if I bring it down to the middle, it's the same. It's like the same distance on both sides. Okay, so let's try it up there. So what I'll do first is I want to measure my furthest egg. So I take all my points now, all my measurements from these lines. So from the very center, so I measure with one end of my scale tool, and you can see the other end's really big now. So I'm just going to measure that and see where it's going to sit on my page. So it ends up out here, which that's not too bad. Let's try the other way. So let's say I've sort of just roughly drawn in some eggs here. So let's do that and see where that's going to sit. I feel like it's a little bit big, so I'm just going to bring it back down one. Oh, I'm trying to do this without looking at it. Okay, let's come back a bit and try it again. So I'm going to measure my furthest point. Okay, it's about there. So I measure with this end and then I check on my paper with the other end. Okay, so I think that's a bit better scale. Okay, so then I would get a willow or vine stick charcoal because I'm going to sketch. So I'm sketching with the charcoal because this is going to be a charcoal drawing. But the willow is really easy to rub out, so if it's not quite right. So I'm just going to, I would normally freehand this because it's really not important that these are in the right place. But so I'll just show you how I do it with a scale tool though. So I measure that. So I'll put a mark there. So that's where the end of that egg is going to come. Now let's see where this point is. About there. So we'll remember, the thing with the scale tool, you just got to remember that you measure with one end on your reference image and it's the other end you mark on your paper. Okay, so those 2 points are where this egg's going to sit here. And then I could also, if I wanted a height, I could then go, all right, from that center line again, it's going to come up about there. And then let's say we won't worry about we'll just look at where the bottom of the egg would probably be sitting. Probably about down here. So, okay, so there's sort of my points for my egg, and then I can just rough it in with my stick here and go, all right, this is pretty much where my egg's going to be. Okay, and then we could then go, all right, where's the next egg going? So we can measure from there to there. Yeah, it's a slower way than tracing. And like I said, for bigger work, you have to do this because it's not really, unless you use a projector, I suppose. I don't like running a whole grid over my bigger work. I think it's a bit of a pain. But doing this will really improve your drawing skills. So I would definitely, if you've got the time, definitely get yourself a scale tool and have a little play around with it. So this egg's nearly a circle, but it sort of comes through, kind of touches that one there. Okay, and then up to there. Okay, so there's 2 eggs, and then there's another one in the background just through here. Okay, and then I was just going to put a couple more eggs sort of in here. And then we'll have one laying down. Trying to keep them similar size. We'll have one sort of laying down. So just remember, eggs, of course, are a bit bigger at one end than the other. Okay, so that's how my eggs are going to be. The actual nest with the sticks and everything, the hay and that, I'm just going to put that in later. So this is more about getting your egg shapes right. And also we're going to pretend our light source is coming from up this direction. Okay, so it's also going to be looking at how the light is going to hit them. Okay, whoop. Sorry guys, let me just spin it back around. You don't want to watch me, you want to watch what I'm doing. Okay, just let me check that there's no questions or anything so far. Yes, got to get yourself one of those gadgets. They are handy. This one is, I just get them online from eBay, I think it was. And I think they're around $9 to $10. Okay, it's just plastic. It's pretty straightforward. They do sort of bow a little bit, the cheap plastic ones, but I don't mind it. It's nice and light and it's easy to use. Okay, so with my charcoal, let's get back to the charcoal. So I'm working on Archer's hot press watercolor paper. So you could do this in a sketchbook though, of course. So I've sketched in with my willow charcoal stick because it's just a lot easier to rub out. But once I've figured out where I do want my actual lines to be, then I just come back over with an actual charcoal pencil. So this is, I love General's charcoal pencils, and this is a 2B. So I'm just gonna run some lines around here. Just these don't rub out as easy. And I want to be able to see my lines after my next step. So I've just run around those just with a pencil. And the pencil is actually compressed charcoal like this. So it's been compressed down. It's probably had a binder of some sort. I'm not sure how they do it, but it's a lot stronger, whereas your vine willow sticks, these come in lots of different sizes, they are literally a burnt stick. So you can't get really dark marks with the willow. They're great for sketching, but they rub out too easy. They're good for middle of the road marks. So say if I see how it rubs out quite easy, where if I use the compressed, it doesn't rub out as much. Okay, so that's really the only difference between the two. So if you just remember, the willow or vine is for sketching, all them lighter tones, because we will put a bit on here, maybe. But all right, so once I've got my drawing done, okay, once I've got my drawing done, I then come in with charcoal powder. Okay, so you could use, if you didn't have powder, you could just get a bit of sandpaper and your compressed, where did I just put it? The little compressed stick, okay, like this, and run it on sandpaper to create some dust, or put it in a mortar and pestle maybe. But if you do get some charcoal powder, this is quite a big tub. You only need a little tub. This lasts for such a long time. Okay, and now I'm just going to get a bit of paper towel. And I've put some charcoal powder on it. And now I'm going to essentially rub this powder all over my drawing. Okay, I might just get a bit more down through here. I don't want too much on the eggs, but I don't like working on white paper very much, so I like to get some sort of a base down. Okay, so when you see any of my charcoal work, it's usually got some sort of a background done. Okay, so can't really zoom out very well on this. Let me try and come out a little bit. Hold on. No, I'm not going to be able to zoom out. But anyway, I've just brought that around the outside there. Hold on, let's try. Actually, I might be able to. Hold on. If I go like that. There we go. Okay. So that's my next step. So, and you can see where all those sketch lines are gone. The only lines that have stayed are the ones I did in my pencil. Okay, so that's why it's important to run around and do some pencil lines, because if you've done this beautiful sketch and then you rub over it with charcoal and you lose all your lines, then you'll be very sad. So don't forget the step of going back over it with your pencil. Okay. Now, next. All right. So I'm looking at I'll be looking where the light comes from. Now, of course, this picture isn't great for light, but it is definitely coming from above a little bit. So the next step is I use my kneadable eraser, and I like to pull out anywhere I can see lighter areas. Okay, now again, this is quite basic because we are talking about eggs here. But you can imagine if we were doing a whole animal, it takes a while to go through and really pull out the lighter areas. Okay, so this is just a Faber-Castell kneadable eraser. I find the Faber-Castells are the better kneadables. They're just a lot softer and easy to work with. Okay, so we're just going to go around, pulling out our lights. This little one back here. And then I usually push the lights a lot more by coming back in with a white charcoal pencil or even white pastel, depending how bright a white I want. So maybe we could put some, this picture doesn't show highlights, but we could put some highlights on the eggs with the white pastel if we wanted. Okay. But you really need, if you are planning on going back over areas with white charcoal, then you've got to try and get out as much of this powder as you can if you want it quite bright. Otherwise it will end up going a bit, it blends with the charcoal underneath and you have more of a grey than a white. Okay, so next I'm going to bring in, I'm just going to bring in, let's do our darks. No, actually, we've got our mid-tone already, sort of with that charcoal that I've put down, the powder. So we could then bring in compressed stick and start to sort of look at some darker areas on here. That egg was supposed to touch that egg. Oh. So I can either use my compressed stick or I could use my pencil to start to mark in some darks. I also like to use a paper blending stump. Now there's normally, if the eggs were sitting on a table or something, there would be a cast shadow sort of down here, but because it's sort of in this nest, you won't have that. But I'm just going to do a really rough nest sort of thing afterwards. So it's a little bit darker through there. So the stump is great for just adding, you know, if you just want a very faint bit of darkness, you can just use your stump. I quite often will rub it back in the charcoal and then come back and add it over to where I think I want it. So this egg was supposed to be touching that egg, and it was throwing a bit of a shadow onto this one here. Okay, and then again, usually on an egg, it usually gets a another bit of light thrown back up from the table, but again in this situation then not going to have that because it is sitting in that nest. So depending on where your object is going to depend on sort of what light is coming off it, what other colours as well. I just want to try and get rid of that mark there. It must be in my paper. This egg's got a default, a lot of my eggs are a bit like this. Not all eggs are perfect like you see in the shop. It's very rare to get perfect eggs from homegrown chooks. Those that have chickens will know that. They're not brown either, not all brown. Like that always used to make me question eggs when you see in the shop, you open a packet of eggs and they're all this perfect brown colour. I'm pretty sure they spray paint them because it's very rare to get brown eggs like that. Alright, I want it just a little bit more dark in there, so what I sort of can do is use my vine again, because it's, like I was saying, it doesn't go very dark and it blends really easy. So I could put that in there. I'm going to have to bring the bottom of this egg in somewhere, aren't I? Because it's sort of sitting out the back there. So that will be dark in here. I can't believe I didn't notice that I didn't have those two touching. Alright, so to distinguish the difference between that egg in the background and the one in the foreground, I'm just going to darken that one in the background a little bit. And then I can bring, it's just supposed to be darker there. I was going to say you could bring a rubber in, or this is a rubber. I'm just grabbed it. I do prefer these kneadable erasers though, because they don't leave marks everywhere. Not marks, they're little, you know when you use a normal rubber and you got those little bits of rubber everywhere? I don't like them, but they are handy, those retractable ones. Okay, just trying to neaten this up a little bit here. So I think that should be really dark in there. Okay, and then this one, Bring this darker down in here. Around there. So again, we'll use our stump. You don't need to use the stump. I just quite like a smoother finish, but you could just do it as a crosshatch. And also keep in mind, a lot of people think that with when they're doing a light and dark shadow, that it should be halfway, and it's not at all. It's a lot darker right around the edge, and then it's, depending on the shape of course, but it really changes just a little bit right towards the bottom there. It's not exactly half, and definitely go with the shape of the object as well. So this is actually a bit darker. Let's just neaten that up a little bit. Okay, they look like rocks. And then through here would be darker. This is sort of also how you get rid of your, I might try this stump, the stick. You get rid of your dark lines. So you can see this egg, of course, they all have dark lines around them from my initial drawing there. But I'm not worried about them because I've got a really dark background. So I'm going to get rid of those lines once I do the background. I think the pencil is a bit better than that stick to work with. Can pull out a bit if we think we've got too much down. Pretty good at getting my hands in there too. Okay. Just try and neaten that a little bit. Try a harder rubber, see if we can't get rid of that line. Got two lines happening there. Actually, I'll probably lose that one when I do the background maybe. Okay, last one. Let's get some more dark down a bit. Oh, I'll use our pencil. This has a funny shape going, hasn't it? Now, you're probably also seeing how filthy my blending stump is, but I actually, I like my charcoal stumps to be dirty. I don't. Everyone always says, how do you clean your blending stumps? But I actually don't, because I like them to have charcoal on them already. So, but in saying that, with graphite though, I use a blender a lot in graphite too. I actually like a clean one, so blending stumps are pretty cheap if you get online, and you can buy them by a pack of like 6, and it doesn't matter that you'll see all different sizes. It's not really that much. I like a mid-size, but I can use this, really small ones, like these little tiny paper ones. They're really good for graphite. So I usually just have quite a few cleaner ones for when I'm working with graphite, but when I'm working with charcoal, the same stump I use over and over and over again. So that in there. See how it blends away to nearly nothing, this stick, the vine stick. It's good for adding just really light bits of shading. Okay, so then we could come in with a white charcoal pencil and add some white if we wanted to brighten up any areas. But like I said, it does end up blending in with the powder underneath, so you've just got to try and get as much powder out as you can before you bring the white in. So I usually wait till I'm pretty happy with the rest of it, like with all my darks and stuff, before I bother with white at all. So I don't know if you can really see that much, but it is lightening it a little bit. I'm going to probably try and get rid of that line a little bit through some of these areas. And what I then do, if the white's not really cutting it, it's helping to blend it a little bit. Look at that. Then I'll bring in the white pastel. So say if these had, just a white pastel stick. So say if I wanted a highlight on it. One at the back wouldn't have a highlight at all. I don't know how well this is standing out on there. Oh, you can sort of see it. That's a bumpy egg, isn't it? It's like, okay, we won't go into that. It's a bit bumpy, but yeah. So now the back, let's get, I'm gonna sort of bring some of this stick charcoal, the compressed stick, in the background. And this is where I was saying you'll end up, you don't have to worry about those lines that I had around the eggs, because they're going to get lost in this background. And the eggs should really sort of start to pop. Now, background comes about there, and then our nest. Whoop! I should have got a bigger stick, shouldn't I? Although everything, even my pastels, I prefer to work with small sticks, like this sort of size, because I use them on the side all the time. So if it's too big, it's like not manageable at all. like to sort of end my charcoals a bit rough. So we'll go quite dark in behind the eggs, but then we'll come out a bit lighter. That egg has a funny shape happening. It's a bit of a wonky egg, isn't it? Alright, so I can then just blend it. If I wanted, you could just leave it the way it is, or you could get your fingers in there. I like to get messy, so charcoal's such a great medium, honestly, and it's so cheap. You don't need much, and it's, if you can get good at your values in charcoal or graphite even, then it'll just work with any other medium. Once it makes the colour part of it a lot easier as well, if you get good at seeing your values. Okay, and then I could come back in with my kneadable if I wanted to kind of fix up some of the edges a bit, if I wanted them a bit sharper. This really is a wonky egg. You could neaten it up a bit with a pencil too, if you wanted. Because remember, the pencil and that compressed stick are the same thing. You do get, the sticks do come in different grades, like the pencils are like usually a 2B, 4B, 6B, so your compressed sticks will be in that as well. Yeah, some of the cheaper brands of charcoal are usually just light, medium, dark, I think. But I know the generals and that come in the actual 2B, 4B, 6B, I think. Let me just check questions and then I'll just show you how I was going to do the nest bit. Okay, but you can see how it really sort of, once you've got that dark behind, you can't see the edge, those lines of the egg anymore, and it really makes them pop. Oh, Karen, you just bought a scale tool. Good on you. So $7.55 on eBay. Well done. Like the dark background. Yeah, I did. A dark background really makes it pop, hey? So I can neaten that up in there a bit. You can just play with it, but I didn't want this. I wanted it fairly straightforward. It's not for anything in particular. It's just for this sort of demonstration. It's certainly not hanging on the wall anywhere. Okay, so now what I was thinking of doing with this nest of like just sticks was just start to kind of just create some darker lines here and there. Off in a few directions. It's going to be dark in under there. I'm just using my compressed stick again, same one. I'm just going to town actually, just have fun with it. Let's put one up through there. This is as abstract as Kerri gets. I'm all about the realism, but it is fun to just play around sometimes. some sticks. Now there's a couple that just sort of come up into that background that are lighter, so there. Let's try, what's this one gonna do? Let's try our pastel stick. I don't know if it's gonna actually look any good, but we'll put a few little marks here and there. I'm not pressing hard at all with this. And push a bit harder down the front here. Just trying to do a few darker ones as well out the back here. Fill in a few little bits a bit darker. So I think right now is a good time where I should step away and look at it from a distance, but I think you get the idea. Let's dull those a little bit. Okay, I think that'll do. So, oh, Leonie, you'll have to watch the replay. Let me just spin back to me, I suppose. Yeah, I think I'm done. I'll spin back to me and see if there's any questions. Oh, hold on. Oh God, I've got it tightened that hard. Hold on, let me spin back. I'm probably covered in charcoal, am I? No, my hands are. But yeah, so I don't think I can see any questions there, but definitely, like Karen just put up, that she's bought a scale tool. They're so handy to have. $7.55 on eBay, Australian. They're just really handy, even if you don't even have to use it as a scale tool. You could just use it to check different sizes. You know, if you wanted, say if you were doing your drawing and something wasn't looking right, you can just use one of these to check your sizing and stuff, you know. They're just really handy to have, and they're not expensive. So definitely get one of these for your kit. And yeah, and hopefully if you didn't, everyone in my membership knows how I do charcoal, but those that aren't in my membership, just go back and watch the process. So sketch in, again, charcoal powder, make sure you go over your lines, so then when you rub that powder over it, you don't lose those lines. Also you've got to think about your darks and lights, because I knew my background was going to be dark, so I didn't have to worry about those lines of the eggs. I knew I would lose those, get rid of them. You don't want any outlines. That's how you change from drawing that looks a bit cartoony to drawings that start to look more real. There is no outline, okay? It's any lines, like even on my head, there's no essential outline. It's just where I'm receding, so I'm going into shadow sort of thing. There's no hard and sharp lines on like things like eggs and animals and people and all the rest of that. Okay, so definitely think about that when you're drawing. Also, of course, think about your your darks and lights, your values. That's your main thing as well to create realism, is those values. And if you're struggling and you're thrown in the deep end doing colour, go back to the basics, go back to just charcoal or graphite and really work on getting those values right. A lot of beginners don't go dark enough. You've really got to get nice and dark and nice and light and have a big contrast, and that'll really help make your drawings pop a bit more. So, all right, I'm going to take you off of here just so I can, oh, I've got my big fat hand in front of the camera. I'm just moving around here so I can just check. Looks great, and love the nest with eggs. Thanks, Kay. I just wanted to run back through and make sure I didn't miss any comments. Not comments, questions, no. All right, so I'll spin it around one more time and just show you the eggs again. Sorry. Okay, so I'll put a picture up of the finished drawing, but you can see that it didn't take that long. I am seeing a couple of spots I might change, like through here. I feel the one behind needs to be darker. Okay, I can push that dark a little bit more through there. Just little things. That's why it's always good to sit back and look at your work a little bit before you say it's finished. So, yeah, maybe this other egg down here could be a bit darker, but anyway. All right, it is what it is. It's a demo piece, so hope you enjoyed that. And I'll talk to you all soon, especially those in my membership, which is a lot of you guys. And yeah, enjoy Easter, guys. Actually, I didn't even think of that. How relevant are these eggs? It's Easter. All right, we're having a big camping weekend here with all the kids and their mates, so you probably won't hear from me much over Easter, but you probably don't want to, so enjoy your own Easter holiday. And yeah, I'll talk to you all soon. Bye, guys.